Okay, let us start the class. So, in the last class, I explained to you about what is the role of an operating system. I told you that the operating system plays a very important role in being a via media or a link or an interface between the hardware and the user. So the operating system is kind of an interface between the user and the computer hardware. Now, all of us as users, we may be using different types of application programs. Generally speaking, most of us are using application programs. We may be using, say, Microsoft Teams to take classes. We may be doing programming using Skylab or MATLAB. We may be writing a letter in PowerPoint, in MS Word, Microsoft Word. We may be doing some spreadsheet in Excel. All these are application programs. So the user is interacting or using a application program, and this application program is interacting with the operating system, and the operating system is the bridge between this user through the application program and the hardware. I also told you that there are two types of software programs or software. One is application programs like spreadsheets, word processors, video software, browsers, email. All these are application programs or application software. The operating system leads the system software. The system software, there are many, but the operating system is the most dominant and the most important kind of system software. And other system software include the compiler, the assembler, the loader, the linker. These are things that are other system software. As you know, compilation, you have already done C programming or Python programming. You are executing the program. You are compiling the program. If you have been using microprocessors, you may be using an assembler. Assembler, immediately the instruction is converted into machine language. Then there is a loader which loads certain files into the system and so on. There is a linker which links multiple files. But these are all system software. Now, I already also told you that the operating system plays a very important role. It manages the resources, it manages the memory, it manages the input-output devices, it manages the control of the entire computer. These are the general major responsibilities of the operating system. Allocating resources, managing the memory, managing the input-output devices, that is the printer, the mouse, the scanners, and managing the control of the program, how the computer operation and the this thing. Now, we also need to understand, we have done, yeah, I've taken all these things, yeah. Now, we also need to understand how this system works in a computer. Now, suppose, you are now, all of us are working on the computer. All of us have switched on the computer. It is plugged to the power. In some cases, if you are using a laptop, you may have some charge or battery. Now, even when the power is switched off, or even when the laptop battery is zero, there is something in the computer or the system that makes it alive, so as to speak. See, now all of us are using the computer. We are connecting to the, suppose we are using a desktop system. We need to plug on the power. The power needs to flow. Only then the processor fires and the other applications work. But after the class today, I am going to switch off the desktop. I am going to switch on off the laptop. Maybe the laptop has absolutely no charge. but still the computer and the desktop or the laptop needs to be alive. How is it alive? It is alive as a result of a program called the kernel. The kernel is something that makes the computer alive. It is running at all times in the computer. And when you switch on the computer, when you power up or reboot the computer, because the kernel is there, the computer is always alive. But then when you switch on the computer, when the power flows into the desktop or the laptop, typically what is known as a bootstrap program is loaded. The bootstrap is something like an initializer. The bootstrap fires the computer, looks into the ROM, and the bootstrap is stored in the ROM or the EEPROM, where it is the first location where it goes and it initializes the computer. So as soon as you switch off on the computer, the bootstrap fires. The bootstrap is there in a primary memory. It fires. It starts what is known as the power on self test. It checks for the power, it checks for the initialization, and it loads the operating system kernel and starts execution. So I will repeat. At all times, there is a kernel running in the computer. The kernel is basically part of the operating system. The kernel is like the life or the soul, you can say. The kernel is part of the operating system. The kernel is like the soul. Even when the power is not there, the soul is always there. So the kernel is always running. So the computer is alive. The laptop or the desktop is alive. Now, when you switch on the power, what happens is that there is an initialization happening. The bootstrap runs. The bootstrap is loaded, and this bootstrap is available in the primary memory. And the bootstrap initializes the system, and the bootstrap loads the operating system kernel and starts the execution. Now, we have to also understand that I have already told you operating system is the bridge between the hardware and the user or the application software. But we have to understand that there are multiple units in a computer system. There is a processor which is the brain of the computer. There are several input-output devices that are connected. A mouse, a keyboard, a printer, a monitor, input-output devices. There are storage devices called disks. It can be a external, it can be a hard disk, it can be a hard disk, it can be a flash drive, it can be a pen drive, it can be a external hard disk. There are things. So, but we have to understand that all of these have a subtle way of talking to each other, operating with each other, working with each other, collaborating with each other, communicating with each other. And it is the operating system that manages this control processes, this communication, this collaboration. All of these are connected to a common channel or the blood. What is that? The bus, not the blood. The bus is like our vein or artery. I'm sure in your human body you know about the veins and the artery. The artery is, if I am not mistaken, the one that heart pumps blood to the various parts of the body through the artery, and the blood that is returned back to the heart through the veins, if I am not mistaken. Correct me if I am wrong. Similarly, there is a bus. The bus is connecting everything and anything. The CPU is connected, the hard disk is connected, the memory is connected, the input-output devices are connected, the monitor and the mouse is connected, everything. And everything is through a common bus. This bus is like an artery or a vein. Now you can understand that there is likely to be conflicts. CPU has to help everybody. Everybody wants memory. Keyboard wants the processor. The mouse wants the processor. Mouse you're clicking, the processor has to do something. Keyboard you're banging a key, processor has to do something. Printer is printing something, you need something to be from the processor. Monitor is showing something on the screen, you need the processor. So everybody and anybody needs processor resources. Everybody and anybody needs to look at the memory, connect to the memory, talk to the memory, retrieve from the memory, store in the memory. So all these happen in a very subtle fashion. But it is the operating system that coordinates the entire process or the control through this common bus, and all the dialogue and the transactions and the communication, whether it is between the CPU and the input output devices, whether it is between the memory and the CPU, whether it is between the input output devices and the memory, and so on and so forth. So please understand, this is like the blood vessel or the artery or the vein. Everything is connected to these things, right? When the CPU gives instruction, execute something, and that goes to these people, it is like the heart is pumping blood. When the printer or the scanner gives some instruction back, it is like the vein returning the requesting for CPU resources or something like that. This entire system is controlled by the operating system. Now, in each of these devices, there is a controller. The controller is like a buffer or a coordinator. Inside the disk, there is a disk controller. We are having a hard disk, there will be a disk controller, hard disk controller, which will have some temporary memory locations for storing instructions in a queue. Same way, the keyboard or the mouse and the printer, which are all connected through a USB, will have a controller. The USB controller will have some registers for putting temporary instructions. Same way for the graphics. So, but all this happens, and this entire process is coordinated by the operating system. So as mentioned, input output devices and the CPU can execute concurrently. Both of them can do things, right? Each device controller is in charge of a particular device type. Each device controller has a local buffer. This local buffer is there here, here, and here. In this local buffer, the CPU will be removing data from two main memory and from two local buffers. So the CPU and the operating system takes care of this entire dialogue. Each of these controllers have buffers, and the from memory to memory, the CPU executes this thing. From memory, something goes here. From disk, something goes here. All this process happens through the buffers and the disk controller on the buffer. And this entire process, execution happens through the CPU, and the process is coordinated by the operating system. Now, CPU moves data from and to main memory, to and from local buffers. Local buffers which are in the disk controller, the USB controller, or the graphics adapter. Now, how does this subtle process happens? As I told you, the operating system coordinates this process. All devices talk to each other, talk to the memory, talk to the processor, and so on. Now, there is something called an interrupt system. So, an operating system executes what is known as an interrupt. Interrupt is something which, if the processor is doing something, when an interrupt is raised through the operating system, it stops that and then goes to the next task. You can very well understand that everybody wants the CPU to execute things. I'll give you an example. You are actually storing files from C drive to D drive. That is happening here. Immediately you want to check a mail, then you open the email application. That is when this copying a file from C drive to D drive is going on, you want to check your urgent mail. You click the email application and fire the email application. So what will happen? This will go on in the background, but now the important thing is to check the email. So from the USB, an interrupt, USB controller, and an interrupt will go there to the CPU. Hey, I have a more emergency thing. Please stop what you are doing. So the processor stops temporarily the copying of file from C drive to D drive and does the job, just the email checking first. So in every second or every minute, thousands and thousands of interrupts are happening because processor has to take care of everything. See, that's the beauty of technology. Processor is managing so many things. Now, you just think, in a bigger way. If you have hundreds of processors, then there will be millions of processes. You can imagine how many interrupts are happening. So the operating system is an interrupt driven thing. It manages this process of interrupt. When an interrupt happens, the processor stops what it was doing, saves the state of what it was doing, and then does that new job. And this is how you can understand how it is happening. See, user processor was executing. Immediately there was an interrupt from an input output device. That is the same thing that I told you. Maybe you are copying files from C drive to D drive. Then an interrupt happened because you want to check your email urgently and you bang the keyboard. That thing happened. The CPU then did the processing for your work. Once that was over, it went back to the other process. So this timeline shows what actually happens. So basically, I'll repeat again. You are copying a file from C to D. Something was going on. CPU is helping you do that. But then you gave an email request, urgent email request. You want to open the computer. Then the operating system raises an interrupt. The CPU interrupts what it was doing, that is the C to D drive copying, and then it manages this email thing. Once that is over, it goes by. Meanwhile, it's quite possible that there could be an interrupt from the printer also. You also gave a print command. Then this will get interrupted and it will go there. So see how this subtle movement between, in terms of the CPU resources for disk or for keyboard or for printer is managed by the operating system through a system of interrupts. Now this becomes more and more complicated when you have multi-processors, more than one processors. Multi-processor systems will have several processors. It becomes more and more complicated. But then when you have more processors, it becomes faster. You can work in parallel. You can have better throughput, means output. You can have economies of scale, more people working together. It will become faster. It will become more reliable. If one processor conks out or one processor switches off, the other can work, and so on. So this process only becomes more and more complicated when we are having multi-processor systems. This is what I've been trying to tell you. Same thing only I told you. This is what I have told. Multiple CPUs are there, multiple registers are there, all of them can work in process. There is symmetric multiprocessing. Each processor performs all the tasks. There is no, everybody does everything. Everybody shares the responsibility. But this is what I told you. Asymmetric multiprocessing means each processor is assigned a specific task. They divide the tasks among themselves. Also, this is also possible. Now, there is also something called multi-core systems. Multi-core means inside a processor there are two cores, or rather it's the same processor with two cores. But that also means that these two cores function as though they are two different processors. Right? Many servers have this configuration. Blade servers have this configuration. In the same processor, there may be two core, dual core or quad core, 4 cores. That means within that processor, actually there are 4 cores, or 2 cores means they act as if there are two different processes. I will close for today. This clustering and all I'll take in the next class. But I quickly wanted to again summarize what I've been trying to tell you. What happens is that first task is going on. You are copying a file from C to D drive. The disk controller and the disks is working. The CPU is making that transfer happen from C to D drive. Then an interrupt happens through the keyboard where you want to check the mail. The USB controller, through that USB controller, the operating system will raise an interrupt. The CPU will stop it what it was doing. It is stored in a state because it has to go back there. Continue with the email, clear the email. When the email is completed, maybe you would have got another interrupt from the printer. Then it will stop this, go there. It will save this to the state and then this thing. So this is the subtle thing that actually happens. This is the and you can just see this and see how it works. I'll close for today. That's all from my side. I think that's it. Let me just take your